Lisco.
Yep.
Jeremiah Sosa.
Here.
David Morena.
Here.
Rachel Marzon. Alyssa Hine. Greg Buena.
I think it's here.
Kyle Kwame.
Here.
Kimberly Tran.
Here.
Nathan Rock.
Here.
Dan Molitor.
Here.
Victoria Barassi.
Here.
Liz Casperson.
Here.
Rachel Usgard.
Here.
Law Tao.
He's going to be a little late.
Amina Mose.
Here.
Aglan Pecos.
Here.
Lonnie Callow. Lonnie Callum. Libby Otto.
Here.
Alex Piranha.
Present.
Kate McAllen.
Here.
Colleen Shower.
Here.
Kenny Now. Kyle Evans.
Here.
And Hallie is. Alright.
Move the executive reports, please.
I hope people don't mind if I read off my phone because we've got a lot of things to report today. First of all, the reason I'm standing up is because I watched some of the videos of GA, and it was a lot easier to hear Jeremiah speak when he was standing and facing back, and it also looked a lot better. So I think just visually that's good, and that's another reason why we decided to spread out today, just so it's a little bit more well-rounded for the tape. But anyway. So, first of all, it seems like it's been more than a week since the 100 to Influence, but that was just last Tuesday night. I just wanted to say that I thought it went really well. Thanks to everyone who came and helped out with it, especially Wendy, obviously. So, I guess there's still a lot of ways it could be improved, and I know some people aren't happy because there wasn't a trustee or administrator at every table, but I think we should be proud of the way it went, and I think that there's some easy ways to improve it in the future. I've talked with Dean Sickberg already about making sure we invite the deans of all the schools, and that's 3 more people we can get for three more tables. So that's first part of my report. Secondly, I've been invited to a monthly breakfast meeting with the provost, and I think also Dean Sickberg and Associate Provost Reynolds will be part of that. And then I am allowed to bring one guest to that, so it'll usually be Corbin unless there's like a specific issue that like we need a certain student there for. But that's a good opportunity for us. And then last Thursday I attended a meeting of the Undergraduate Curriculum Committee, and they were rolling out the new Hamline plan, and there's some changes associated with that if anyone wants to know more about the meeting or maybe an open forum we can discuss. But just at the very basic level, they're getting rid of the C for computer intensive. They're lowering the disciplinary breadth from 84 to 76 credits, and they're changing the way formal reasoning works from you now have to do 2, and one of them is like a quantitative reasoning, and one of them is just a regular formal reasoning like it has been in the past. And then there's some changes to the cultural diversity component too. You can now use a learning experience as one of those letters. So there's also going to be an article on the Oracle today about that, so for more information. And then I've been working with Alyssa on a bylaw amendment that's going to be coming forward today. It's basically proposing to switch the power of appointing students to university committees from the PAC chair to the president. There's been a lot of confusion for us related to that this year, and I think that it's a much better way of doing things. And then finally, I'm excited to announce that we are creating a program called the Piper of the Month. We've been talking about it in our executive board for a couple of weeks, and we're still sort of in the experimental stage of it, but we want to have our first Piper of the Month at the end of November. And basically what it is we're going to be recognizing one Hamline student who did something outstanding within the month. And just a nice way of outreaching and recognizing a lot of the great things that our students do. So yeah, that's going to be in November. And then I just wanted to add one more thing. Today we're going to be approving some students, or voting to approve some students to the bookstore committee. 2 of the students are from HUSC. One of them is not on HUSC, but she's someone who served on the committee last year. And I just wanted to say up front that it was my fault that she's not here today. I didn't contact her in time, but she has the full support of both myself and Dean Sickberg. So if anyone has any questions about her, we'll be happy to answer them. And that's all.
Great. You? Oh, I mean, I'll tell you no report or something.
You can just stand in your place, Greg.
Hi. So two things. My committee has been really productive as of last week, and thank you, Kim, thank you, Amin, and thank you, Colleen, because we were able to have a new conference request form, which it's on the website. It's 2 pages. It's a little bit lengthier, but it kind of goes along with some suggestions that I gathered of a meeting with Lucas and Dean Zickford during the month of August, and things we were just working on for the last year. So it's really great that we were able to do this, and we sat down last week and we just did it. So I mean, if you guys have a couple of minutes in your day, just go and take a look. It's pretty cool. The second thing I want to tell is that we have 4 orders of business for my EAC meeting. 3 of them are new. One of them is a contingency from Libby for Fusion. One of them is from Spectrum, or 2 of them are from Spectrum. Wonderful. And then we have some information back for, I'm sorry, lead peer education, HU, whatever education, sorry. But yeah, that's everything I really have to report. Alyssa.
Okay, my committee meets tonight. We have a bunch of things to go over. Me and met with Lucas to discuss possible bylaw changes that he talked about, so that will hopefully get approved to PAC and we'll approve it tonight. I met with Miko to discuss possible attendance bylaws amendments, and so PAC will also be looking at that tonight and hopefully be proposing something next Tuesday. We still need about 6 student orgs constitutions. Jenny will be emailing them again today, and then after that we'll have to decide what we want to do. Wendy sent both of us contact information with the student orgs, so that was very helpful to see, what student orgs have contact with her type of thing. So that's what I've been up to.
So, I will be attending the Tobacco Use Task Force meeting on Wednesday at 3. What I will be talking about at the meeting is talking about how HUSC will be trying to do surveying for the task force. I also met with Alyssa, like she said earlier, about updating the attendance policy. I'm also working on creating a template for all the committee secretaries to use when it comes to attendance and for minutes. So just makes it a lot easier for them to use when they take the minutes, makes it a lot smoother and quicker, and they should be sent out by the end of the week.
Stephen.
Okay, mine's really short. There were some problems with how the rollover with the HUSC money has been done in the past, and apparently the accounting office never had a copy of our rollover policy, so I sent that to them. The scholarship fund has all the money in it for the year, so that's up and running. The first book store committee meeting is this Friday at 3, and we meet Wednesday at 8:30 for EAC. I just want to add something that to Stephen, I may have understood that this is the first time that the accounting office has ever done the rollover in accordance with our actual rollover policy. The first time that anyone is aware of this actually gone down the right way. And we talked about it over the summer, and we talked to Lori, and it took her a long time to actually do it. And we're actually doing it in accordance with our bylaws for the first time, which is a big deal. And it changes our funds a little bit, but it's not that important.
Jenny.
Okay, so our location will be decided tonight in our My Stock meeting. Also, I'm still helping people with their constitutions if they need any help, and I'll be contacting anybody who has not turned in their constitution. Also, me and Rachel and Heather are working on creating a community service project that we as HUSC can sponsor, and it'll be welcome to all Hamline community. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, please let me know or Rachel know about anything like that you would be interested in doing.
Jeremiah. We had our BDR meeting last week, Thursday, and we went over a few different things. We first recommended Sarah Blease in BER as a sworn representative because she applied. She got the 15 signatures, and there she is. Yep, she is here today, so she'll be coming forth later on in GA. We also talked about the monthly constituents meeting. About 2 classes have not fully gotten back to me yet as when their meetings going to be. But we have the rest of the other classes as well as some of the hall representatives, time/dates of meeting and the rest of that. So announcements will be going out about that soon, as well as we're still missing the 2 at-large representatives. I know Janet talked about having one of the reps at the previous meeting, but I've not heard back from that specific representative yet as to who she is or when she's coming, so I've not heard anything about that. And we talked about a few capital improvements, including researching the possibility of having a second colored printer available to students on campus, because we only have 1 available to students right now. That's currently in Soren Computer Lab, and there's no other ones available really to students on campus. So looking at the possibility of that, as well as a few other improvements that we're still in the process of working through. So that's what we're talking about. That's my report. Rachel.
I have nothing new to report. Just a reminder that my committee meets tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. and at that time we'll hopefully be working out a new time.
You got to say my name.
Ooh, but it's going to be fired. Alex.
No report.
That's what no report.
Do Wendy get fired too?
Just a couple things.
Oh, no.
One, for all those who went to the 100 to Influence, thank you for being there. I think sometimes you don't know the power of your conversations that have happened at that event. Because ever since last Tuesday, I guess it was, sorry that a week, it seems to go a long time, but conversations with the provost, conversations with them as a staff, they heard loud and clear about some interest in a residence hall. They heard loud and clear about some issues that came up at a number of tables, including my own table, where I immediately went back and talked with research about a couple of things I heard. So the things that you talked about, the things you raised, are really important. The other thing I would always remind us of is it's always not just about what's wrong, but it's also to praise, what also is going on well here on campus, to let our constituents and our board of trustees know the things you're proud of, things you would engage in that you like, so that they know that side of the coin too. And I think we tried to do that a little bit at that table as well. The IMPERG committee will be meeting here in the next week. Greg is representing HUSC in this committee. I now have committee full, and so the IMPERG committee will meet to validate. This is the year, I think I reminded some way back in the beginning of the semester, I mentioned that this is the year that you as students and the law students vote upon whether you wish to continue the IMPERG fee. You pay $18.50 a year to support IMPERG here on campus. That's collected each fall. You have the opportunity to waive that fee and get a refund later in the year if you wish to. But the questions basically saying you wish to continue the fee, what the fee will be, is the purpose of this committee, and the methodology of how we do the survey will also be decided by that committee. And so the committee that survey will happen either at the end of the semester or the beginning of next semester. That's the binding decision about whether we continue to do the fee here on campus. And thirdly, I would just, ask you to join in my pride of and celebration of supporting St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series for the next month. Yes.
Seeing as how there's no unfinished business, we go right into new business. So we have the approval of the books or committee. So the discussion of the 3 members assembled for it. Motion
to approve the members. All in favor of approving the members?
Second. Second.
It has been seconded appropriately. All in favor of approving the assembled members of the bookstore committee? All opposed? That's it. They pass. Next, we have a confirmation for the new rep. Sarah Gleason, if you'd like to come down. And if you'd like to say a few words to everyone who you are.
I'm Sarah Gleason. I'm a first-year student here. I'm involved in the Hamline yearbook that was brought back, Colleges Against Cancer, and the program here. I've never specifically done student government, but I've held a lot of leadership positions throughout my high school. I was editor of my yearbook in my high school. I was assistant manager at Taco John's for several years. And I've always been interested in doing something with student government. So it's kind of neat.
Does anyone have any discussion on Sarah? Okay, is that a hand raise? Okay. Alex?
Do you have any plans as to how you'll be trying to get in connection with your fellow residents at SWAT?
I know personally at Soren we do a lot of activities together. Like that third floor is really utilized for like getting together for movies, for ice cream, for random things like that. And it's really, I know a lot of the people on my floor, like especially my floor, we're super close. But I know many of the people on the third floor, second floor, they're really easy to talk to. I know all the RAs and everything too. Like it's just kind of a going through it, putting that kind of going and talking to people.
Thank you.
Will you be going to the Soren Superfan events? When we go to
I won't be going to this one that's happening because I have a chemistry seminar that I have to go to.
Valid.
But otherwise, I hope to, yeah.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to.
Second.
You didn't even, that wasn't even a motion. You just motion to approve. Approve.
As a SORN representative. A second.
All in favor? All opposed? Let's give her a round of applause.
I was wondering if the chair of the book would be doing for a question.
Yes.
What are we missing now? Do we just have the at-large reps?
We're
Manor.
just missing the two at large, and then just Manor. I forgot to mention the Manor representative. We're still missing that one. But if we already have one at large representative, based on what Jenny has told us so far, then we're only missing one Manor rep and one at large rep. So that's all in the time so far works for most people. So.
Excellent. Oh, people assembled. Finally, we have the university-wide committee resolution with Lucas presented.
Basically, I talked about this a little bit. I talked about this a little bit in my report, but the whole point, like we just approved the bookstore committee representatives, and last week we approved Greg as the MPERG representative. We've done this quite a few times already this year, and basically the way we've been doing it. And so what happens is that Dean Sickbird or someone else will send me an email and say, I need students for these committees. And in the past what happened, despite the bylaws, was that the president would just pick someone, and they didn't even go through GA to like confirm the person. And that was just how it was done. This year we're actually trying to do it in line with the bylaws. So I've been communicating with Alyssa about the students because it's ultimately her job as it now stands to appoint them. But we've really been collaborating in that, and it hasn't been the best. Like we have no problems working together, but it's just kind of an inconvenience. And if going along with as I have the resolution stated here, I think that it's logical with the president as the elected voice of the student body with the responsibility to oversee all student congress activities, and most specifically to act as liaison between student body, administration, and faculty. I kind of had the feeling that it should be the president's responsibility to appoint people to these committees and be responsible for them after they're on those committees. So basically everything we have here in this resolution is explaining why that's the case. And then what I'm ultimately asking for is that we approve the bylaw changes that we have here. We'll show for everyone. Hang on just a second. It's not going to show. Okay, hang on. Corbin, I might need your help. Private, but I need you to download it because the revisions don't show up unless it's in a Word doc. Sorry about this.
Okay, so basically, we're striking or taking out subdivision 3 and giving that responsibility to Lucas, current subdivision 3. And then my responsibility will then be to recommend all HUSC standing committees and one HUSC member to the Maxis delegation. So the standing committees are like the Political Affairs Committee, PRC, SOC, those committees. So I would still assign them, and then as our bylaws, as the Maxis delegation, I have to recommend a student to that, and the president also has to recommend a student to that. So that's what we'd be changing under my roles. Or under the political affairs chair roles.
We also fixed some of the wording that was unclear. Like before, it said that Alyssa was supposed to appoint one MAPSIS representative. And anytime the word representative is used, it's kind of confusing. So we made very clear that it's one HUSC member to the MAPSIS delegation because it's supposed to be a HUSC member. And then if we go down to president here, we made clear that it's not HUSC representatives, it's student body representatives to all university-wide committees. And the significance of that is that it then doesn't, the bylaw is not written in a way that future presidents or administrations will think that, oh, it's only HUSC members. We want to make it very clear that anyone can be a member of these committees. And so that was why the wording was important there. And then we also clarified that I appoint one of the MAPSIS representatives and that Alyssa appoints the other one. So the part in red obviously is what we changed here. And so it says to make the following appointments, each subject to majority approval of the Student Congress. HUSC officers and cabinet members is already a responsibility that the president has. We just changed the formatting so that it was a lot prettier and more logical. And then one HUSC member to serve as MAPSIS representative. I talked about that. And then student body representative to all university-wide committees. And also, I forgot there's some things in here that are sort of random changes that maybe the PAC committee will amend, maybe they won't. But just as Alyssa and I were going over it, we struck out to meet before the start of the school year with the Commitment to Immunity program to jointly select an executive board member to serve as a standing member of the program. And the reason for that was that this year I reached out to them, and actually several members of HUSC reached out to them wanting to join, and they refused to cooperate with us. So if that's going to be the case, I don't think it should be something that's required of the president under the bylaws. But also I don't want to, if future leaders of that organization would be more cooperative, we don't want to burn bridges for all future. So that one is not an essential part of what I'm proposing here. It's just, there's a smaller project and a larger project. The smaller project is fixing this committee problem. The larger project is cleaning up the responsibilities of the president and PAC chair and eventually the vice president and others. We're just trying to bring them up to speed because a lot of these are written 15 years ago and haven't been changed at all to keep up with some of the changes that have been happening in HUSC. So we're just really trying to modernize the bylaws to make them fit with 2013. And another thing that we have here, and again, if the PAC committee doesn't bring this back to us on Wednesday, it's not the end of the world because I think it needs a little bit more discussion, but the president is supposed to act as a student body representative to several different bodies on campus. The problem is, and Dean Sticker can probably vouch for this, that the administrative council of the university and university council do not exist. And then the board of trustees, we're not recognized as a member. Faculty meeting is a vague term that doesn't specify what faculty meeting. So we kind of need to clean up that too. I can go back to the resolution now, because that pretty much covers it. If anyone has any questions about the specific wordings here, we can do that. Otherwise, if people have questions just about the idea of doing it itself.
Point of information. Will we be voting for the approval of these amendments next week?
How it will work is we'll vote on today if we should refer this to PAC. PAC can amend what Lucas and I have done, and then on Tuesday, those amendments will be brought forward, and then yes, we'll vote on the approval of those. Just so everyone knows the process of what's going on.
Yes.
Is this where we motion to approve this to PAC?
If there's no further discussion.
I just want to say one thing quick. Another point of us doing this in such a sort of, not theatrical, but just a very demonstrative fashion is that I went to some trouble of bringing together this resolution in such a way. And we sort of we discussed this at executive board that we think it'd be helpful for any major resolutions and for sure for any capital improvement that people write up a resolution similar to this. And some of the executive board members can maybe speak up for what they said, but basically the two major points is that it makes it easier for us to keep track of what we've approved at meetings, and also it makes what we do a little bit more serious and gives it a little bit more gravity. So this is sort of the format that we'd be looking for, and I can send this out to everyone after the meeting.
Is there any further discussion for the resolution?
How would this affect current committees? It wouldn't at all? There wouldn't be any new members or anything?
No, it wouldn't change the existing appointments, and the one we just did today would still be fine. It would just be, after it gets approved, it would be effective immediately for all future appointments.
Great.
Wait, excuse me. Is there any way the edits that PAC makes can be emailed out to everyone so people who want to take more time to review it prior to voting the following Tuesday can do so? That's the next time.
Good.
Any other discussion?
This doesn't affect your resolution, but I think just a point of information perhaps is that one of the things that Lucas has been working on, and we've been talking about with the provost's office, has been that before at one time there was only one faculty meeting. It was the CLA faculty. That's the only faculty meeting. That's why it was worded like that there. Now there are 3 different faculties that meet on campus. But it also was a point that it was pretty common practice that HUSC appointed students to whatever committees existed on campus. And I think since this kind of separation of going into 3 faculties and changes in a lot of bylaws related to faculty governance, some of this notion about HUSC playing that role has been lost. And I think people have gone out to the point of independently appointing students to various committees on campus with no thought about what role you might all play. So I think this has been a task by which the HUSC leadership has kind of begun to work at is how do we recapture some of that authority, privilege, whatever word you want to use to describe that, and encourage how this might, again, happen more on a regular basis than an exception. So even other than what's listed in what is normally in the bylaws about what the president or PAC as chair, what else can we do about making sure that you are a voice and who gets to do what, and how do they report back to you as a student government as part of that communication as well.
I just want to ask you a question for Dean Sticker before we move on. Would you say that this year we've gotten a lot more students on committees than in past years so far?
I mean, so far, we've just, because I think it's been a point of interest of yours, but it's also been, it has been, we have increased the number. There also are more committees right now, I think, that are being formed for a variety of reasons, all the way from the smoking committee to others, so there's more opportunity, but I think it's about getting back into practice. Now, the piece I would add to this is, those people who are appointed to these committees, it's very, very important that you fulfill your role and being active and showing up in these committee meetings, because in the past we have somewhat of a checkered history among us about our reliability, and that's one of the reasons why I think some academic units have shied away or have moved away from worrying about students being in this committee. So we're trying to elevate the importance again, so we really need to do our part in filling these roles.
Any other points of discussion?
I move to approve HUSC Resolution 1.
Second.
All in favor?
It's gonna pass.
All opposed? Excellent. Passes.
As we move through, what is that? How is it being tabled?
It is, that's what I was just wondering.
It was in the resolution, I think. Actually, just for the sake of clarity, can I move that we recall the motion just to clarify what it was?
Recalling the motion?
Yes. Because, yeah, okay.
All opposed? Motion recalled.
Yeah, we just recalled.
I motion to refer this resolution and bylaw amendments to PAC.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Motion to remove or, sorry, the wording's changing.
Strike?
Not strike.
What are you trying to say?
To remove the resolution to back, that's what I'm trying to say.
Refer.
You just,
There we go.
yeah.
Ugh. Wonderful. Okay, so, as it says in the board, today's discussion is essentially about the president has agreed to come into GA on December 3rd. Her one request is that we tell her what in general we'd like to talk about. So instead, with that being an exec board conversation, we decided to open up to all of GA. What should we talk about to the president? Alex.
Do you mind if I stand real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. As someone who lives on campus and relies on dining services to be well-nourished and fed so I can be a good student, and also observing my fellow classmates who also live on campus and rely on dining services for general livelihood, I think it would be prudent to see if the president is open to discussing our contract with Aramark Services and talking about how we can better be more, sorry, the word is fulfilling the needs of the students who rely on campus dining for just about all of their nutritional intake. So I would like that to be on the agenda.
Great. I think that has been addressed before. And as contracts, we have talked with dining services, and I talked to you about this, and we were working about this before. I personally don't. There is a contract, and we should talk to them directly instead of somebody like the president. I think there are more crucial things we should be talking about.
Just as a suggestion, saying that we can. Please.
I just wanted to mention that we've talked about the possibility of bringing in the leadership of Aramark to one of our meetings too. So we can certainly do that for a different meeting because I think that's a really prevalent issue and should be looked into. But yeah, I just wanted to say that that doesn't necessarily have to be something. We don't just have one chance to discuss that. So.
What other things can we talk to the president about?
We were talking about this in our BER meeting, and I'm not sure if this is something we would address to the president, but we were just wondering what we could do with that, like the extra kitchen in Soren that isn't being used right now, if we can turn that into anything.
Doing something with the extra kitchen and storage. Okay. What else?
Something that came up in the group was just like contacting like some of the trustees and getting in contact with them. And last time I checked, the trustee link on the website didn't work, so I have like no idea how to contact them. So something like easier way we can like contact trustees or like bring up policies or something like that. That'd be helpful.
Contact, or at least an easy way to get in contact with the board of trustees. What else? No, Jeremiah.
I was thinking about this. Alex mentioned it the first GA that we had. I'm not GA, I'm BER meeting that we had, which was looking at the expansion of Greek life on campus, basically, to see if there's anything being done about that, to see if there's any conversations or anything. Because I know she talked about it briefly for about 5 minutes or so the last time that she came into General Assembly last year, but that was the last time I heard about it.
I was actually at the table with the president during the undergraduate influence, and as far as I know, there is no formal plan from the administrative side to make it a priority. Largely, any like Greek life expansion has to come from student involvement, and their only real question, the only time they plan on actually getting too involved with it, tends to be whether or not like that said Greek organization would like to buy a house from Hamline.
I don't want to disagree, but maybe this is just different news. And I did talk with I meet with President Hansel once a month. I did talk with her about this issue last time. Wendy and I are in conversation. I spent a year last year speaking with some of the representatives from Theta Chi and other alumni about interest in, Greek expansion. Is there interest in this and so forth? And I think what I promised the president, working with Wendy, is to establish a committee on campus that would take a look at growth or the interest, I would say, first of all, among students about expansion of Greek life, the opportunities perhaps of what that would mean if we brought in additional fraternities or sororities. Her emphasis primarily, at least an initial thing, was to us to look at sororities because we have no national sorority on campus. We have our local, and what would that mean for that group? So there is an official point going forward as we move into this year, as we're part of this year, to bring together this committee. Winnie and I have to decide who that is. We are not really clear about on campus outside of who's in our fraternity and sorority now. Staff and faculty who have that experience that might help us do that. The second thing would be not only expressing interest, but then create a process by which, if we are to add additional Greek organizations, how would that happen? It should not be that I decide that, we should have a St. Louis Cardinals fan club here, that I just go to Wendy and I sign up, I got a constitution, I do it. It really should be a much more structured process than that, because people are investing money, they're investing in a relationship, there's a relationship with another organizational structure, meaning the national, if that's what we do. So there's a lot of alumni interest in this from past Greeks, and so that is where we're headed for this. So we'll come back with you with more information. It might be helpful to have represented from this group as well as be part of our conversation. But we have the permission, I guess, come back to what was stated earlier, for us to explore this and to move forward in some form or fashion, which I don't know exactly what it will be. But, and I didn't mean to counteract what I thought. I think that's what you were told earlier. So I think this is a change somewhat of direction.
I think what continues to be annoying and a problem, and I know that there has been talk and there has definitely been improvements on this, but is the availability of advertising in Anderson Center for student organizations, whether or not we can create a kiosk and that might be used in the capital improvements, in the BER movements or meetings. But if we can form some sort of like solid area where we can post posters instead of using the televisions, instead of making those banners, a lot of our organizations are missing out on a lot of people because we cannot utilize the Anderson Center in a really efficient way for us. And so that's just another thing that I would like to chat about.
What do you mean the TVs, like using the TVs?
The TVs have like you can send in your poster, and then on the televisions in Anderson Center it scrolls by.
There's one right outside.
Yeah.
Over there, if you go out of the building, or out of this room, there's a TV over there in that corner.
Yeah, and it's hard because I did that last year with one of our events and I waited for 5 minutes and I did not see our poster. And so it's one of those things where I know that we're missing people, and if we can just have some sort of place that we can use in Anderson, that would be great.
I completely agree.
What else?
I would just like to point out with that, I don't know if that'd be an issue for the president per se, as it's the Anderson Center staff policy.
I actually think it's not a bad discussion. I mean, sometimes it's an awareness, and to me, it's a broader perspective than just Anderson, because those TVs, as was mentioned, go all over campus, and really it's about how do we advertise for organizations all over campus, not just in Anderson. But Anderson is a gathering point. There's a focus there, but if it's a policy we don't think is helpful to us, I don't think it's harmful to ask or bring it up.
I think with a lot of these things, and Alice is completely right, and I think for a lot of the other things we brought up too, it's not a decision that's directly like under the president. There's probably like someone lower good to inform the president of what are some of the things that we're concerned about as students. And so certainly if she feels that something is an issue, she can make things happen, I guess. But
Great. I think we should ask President Hansen about where's the university heading in the next few years, not as a 20-year plan, but where is it heading in the time that we're going to be here? And that on the one side. On the other side, what is she expecting from the student government? And how are we going to be able to improve the university and be able to make our duty as student congress and our voice and be the student voice represented heard to administration? How can we make that bond stronger? All of the things that we have brought up are really important, but we should really try to make a stronger connection with it. And I know that you and Lucas have tried to do that, but I think there's still a lot of work to do.
Ellen, do you know who hires like professors and stuff like that?
It's a process by which each department actually applies to either have a new professor or replace a professor, and it's approved by the dean of their college, and then the process goes from there.
Something that I would like to talk about is like hiring more full-time professors instead of adjuncts, because I think there's been some discussion about like people getting variable education even though in the same major. So I think something that might be helpful to talk to.
Just going along that, I think it's important for a student to be on, I don't know if students are on the panel for hiring professors, so I also think a student that should be on the panel as we're getting educated by them.
I think it speaks to our earlier comments about campus committees, and I would wonder, I mean, my guess is that it's mixed, that I think there have been some departments that certainly have invited their majors, students who are majors, to be part of the interview, and others perhaps not at all. So I think it's a valid point.
Jeremiah.
I think this question, seen as in we were thinking about doing surveying towards the end of the month, this should be a question that we should have on there, so to kind of get a general feedback from students as to see what they get, kind of want to advertise for it, to show students that, hey, President is coming on the 3rd. If you want to talk about anything, or if you want to listen to what she's going to be talking about, here's the time for you to come. And 2, to kind of get a feedback as to what students actually want to talk about, because although we do have a good sample from this room, we're still missing hundreds of students outside of here, so I think that the feedback would be a good thing to do before moving forward.
Rachel.
Just a point of information for when we were talking about the professors. I know when we were looking at hiring either a biochem or chemistry professor last year, when they had their interviews, we were all invited to go to their talk. So it was like part of, it wasn't like the initial, like the final decision or anything, but we were able to go and listen to their talks and provide our feedback of which professors we liked and what we liked about their talks. So I know that there is at some step in the line, a lot of times you are allowed to like go talk to them.
I think, I'm glad to hear that. I just don't know that it happens every time, which is, I think, what her point was. So maybe to really recognize those departments as a model, who have involved all students. And the question is this a policy? Is this a consistent thing that we could have happen more often?
Thanks. Seeing if there's no further discussion, just please keep this in mind. Actually, feel free to email me, stop any member of the executive board. Ask your constituents about what they think would be valuable. Yes, we'll be surveying, but it is the job of every person, every representative in this room, to go out and ask people what they would like the president to talk about here. It'd also be excellent PR, which is really good for us. Finally, is there any announcements? Yes.
The Home Student Association is hosting their annual Halloween dance Spooky Spectacle. It's going to be tomorrow from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. in Cape Fredericks. It's open to the public as long as they're 18 plus and you have to bring your ID to get in, and doors close at 8:30.
Theta Chi is holding their annual Halloween dance party on Thursday night, 9 o'clock. Wear a costume. There's a costume contest, and it'll be a lot of fun, and I'll be there. So.
No one's going.
I was going to say this in discussion, but I don't think we had an open discussion. But just really fast, I'm just wondering where I would go. Would it be Political Affairs Committee that I'm in that I'd go if I'm wondering on how to have something chartered, an organization chartered? Okay.
I can talk about this. So is the org already a student org?
Yeah, I just was wondering how the sorority could be chartered since it's local, and I think one of the...
Wendy can talk to you.
Actually, that's one of the things that I was thinking when Alan spoke about moving forward with sororities and fraternities. Currently, HUSC does not charter Greek organizations, partially because they are exclusive by gender, and that does not follow HUSC's diversity policy. So at least that's the way it was 7 years ago, 4 even years ago, because this has come up on multiple occasions. So one thing for HUSC to think about and look at, if we do get to the point where we're expanding our Greek organizations and our Greek community on campus, how will HUSC respond? Because that has always, whenever I've challenged HUSC on why aren't you supporting Theta Chi and Delta Tau or any of the other fraternities or sororities that we've had in my time here, that's been the one response that always came back, that through HUSC diversity policy, the student organizations that they chartered would have to be open for any student to be able to join. So that's, I think that's going to be a challenge of if we do increase our Greek populations on campus, what does that mean for them to be chartered or not chartered and so on and so forth. So that's a much longer conversation. So.
I was just going to say that the Inner Greek Council is a charter organization because it is not exclusive by gender.
I was going to say what Lucas said, but if we're doing announcements still, Theta Chi is also doing Trick or Canning on October 31st. And everyone should go to that. It'll be super awesome.
And that's programming board.
Yep, it's partnered with Programming Board, and there are cash prizes. Basically, the way it works is there will be teams of 5, groups of 4 people, and then a driver or team captain provided by Theta Chi and Delta Tau. And if you win first place, you get $50. If you win second place, you get $25. If you win third place, you get $10. And you're getting a bunch of food to donate to Hancock Food Shelter. So you get money and you feel like an amazing person. And you have fun on Halloween, because we don't go trick-or-treating anymore. And if you do, kind of open. Huh? No, that's this Thursday night. Halloween's next week. Yeah.
What time is that?
That is at 5:30 on Halloween.
And also coming up next weekend, November 1st to the 3rd is Family Weekend. Information went out to families early in October, and then a reminder postcard and email were sent out last week to remind families and friends that Family Weekend is coming up. This year, the theater department, they're kicking off their theater season that weekend. I believe that might be one of our last home football games, if not the last home football game of the season. And then also the annual fall concert is held on Saturday. This year they are not ticketing for the concert, but they will encourage families that if you want to come and hear your student in the and if you want to leave when your student's done playing, that they are putting time and space in the concert for people to be able to get up and leave so that others can come in and sit down. And they will also be streaming the concert in Sundin in the lobby area for people to be able to catch the concert if there's not enough seating. So there really isn't a need for a family to register for Family Weekend, but there's a lot of stuff going on. So check out the Hamline website, hamline.edu/Family Weekend, just to see some of the things that are happening on campus.
Any other announcements? Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed?
My bad.